Welcome back to the Introduction to Watercolor class. Today we'll be painting a quick and easy landscape with a sailboat on a lake in the foreground and a tree line with the sun in the background. This image is based on a few different images that I've seen, so we don't have a photo reference for it. Let's begin by taping our cold press watercolor paper down to a board, and we'll draw a horizontal line where our tree line will meet the water. The trees on the left will be slightly closer, so that line will be a little lower than the line on the right side. Next, we'll draw the mast for the sail and the top edge of the boat. Now the front of the boat, the bottom where it meets the water, and the back of the boat. We'll finish the top front edge, and let's indicate some of the reflection. Now let's draw the interior. Now we'll draw the sail. It's going to curve slightly away from the mast. And we'll create a triangular shape for the sail. And you can all see this is the simplest looking sailboat in the world here. I can't vouch for its seaworthiness, but it should work out fine for our lesson. In the background, we'll draw the sun near the upper left third of the paper, and we'll draw some treetops to the left, and some shorter trees to the right of the sun, and we'll draw some treetops on the right side. Next, we'll outline some reflections of the sun on the water. We'll break these up and space them apart so they resemble waves. Okay. Let's begin painting. I've already mixed the colors we'll be using to start the sky. I've created a puddle of orange, yellow, and blue. We'll be using a wet in wet technique for the sky. Let's get a clean wet brush and carefully fill in with water around the sun, over top of the sky and trees on the left, down to the water line, around the top of the sail, along the water line to the right, and over the trees and sky on the right side. Now let's start with the yellow paint. We'll randomly dab it in the middle of the area of the sky. And I'll add a few more dabs to make some areas look more intense. Next, we'll add some orange right around the sun, and randomly add more from the middle to the bottom of the sky. I don't want to cover everything in the middle. I just want to dab it in places and let it blend into the yellow. Now we'll dab some blue into the top in a broken pattern to create a cloudy sunset effect. I like how that's turning out. It looks like a colorful sunset. And now let's lift out some of the puddled water along the horizon. Next, we'll mix a dark neutral color with a combination of blue and orange. We'll use this to create some soft, focused trees. That's not quite dark enough, so I'll mix more pigment and less water. That's better. See how this makes out-of-focus silhouettes of trees growing up from the horizon. We'll make a variety of sizes and shapes. I'll add a couple under the sun as well. And let's lift out some puddles on the edges. Alright, now that makes some nice edges of the trees, and it's had a chance to dry a little. Now we'll mix more of the dark neutral. This has a bit more blue than orange. And we'll add it in the centers of those tree shapes on the right that are more distant. For the left side, we'll mix a darker neutral with less water. This will have a bit more orange, so it looks warmer and closer to us. We don't want to cover the trees, we just want to hit the centers of the tree shapes. That'll give us some variation in the trees. And I'll just touch that horizon a little. Let's dab into these trees on the right of the sun. We're trying for some randomness here to look natural. I want this shoreline to really stick out and to be a little lower so that overlapping creates some depth. We'll mix a warmer, darker neutral and just touch the center of the larger trees. Now let's dry that a little with a heat gun or a hairdryer. Okay, now we're going to prop up the top of the painting with a small box. You can use anything about 2 to 3 inches thick to do this. We're using a wet and wet technique for the water, and we want the paint to flow downward to create some elongated reflections. We'll start with light blue at the top instead of clear water. This will create a little contrast between the sky and the water reflections. We'll leave some white linear highlights for the reflection of the sun to create the effect of wave patterns. Now we'll carefully fill in around the boat. We'll go around the sail. We'll fill in that area off to the right of the sail and finish the rest of the surface of the water. As we work our way down, we'll use just water to pre-wet the paper. Now let's start painting some yellow around the sun reflections. We want to roughly mimic what we see in the sky since this is a reflection of it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to let the watercolor do its thing. I'll finish by randomly dabbing in a few places. We want to keep the color broken and leave some white spaces in there too. Now let's mix more orange paint and start adding it near the horizon. Again, we want this to be broken color, so we're leaving some areas of yellow or white. We'll dab a little around the sun highlights. And around the boat. Near the horizon on the right. On the left. And a few more random strokes on the bottom. Now we'll move on to the blue, and I'll go ahead and mix more of that. We really want to space these out with long strokes to give the appearance of waves. I'm making these slightly diagonal. We'll mix some darker blue and add it to the bottom waves. That will make them appear closer. I want to touch up some things around that sun highlight. I'm going to add some color in and break up the edges of those top two highlights. Okay, it's time to paint the tree reflections now. Let's get our dark neutral color. And we want to create a mirror image of the tree line. This is why we tilted the paper so the paint flows down and creates these longer vertical reflections. We'll make them darker and warmer on the left by adding a little more orange. We'll paint the longest reflections on the left. And I've run out, so I'll mix more of that dark neutral. And we'll make these even darker and warmer so they look closer to us. We'll mix black into that mixture now. And paint right along the water line. We'll use this same dark color to paint the reflection of the sailboat and a second stroke there to look like a wave. We'll add a little dark along the water line to the right and darken that in a few places on the left. Now we'll dry this a little with a heat gun. We'll start on the sailboat now. Let's mix some yellow with a little orange. We'll fill in the sail, leaving space around the edges. Now we'll mix blue. And paint along the left edge where the mast is. And along the bottom. And I just realized I forgot to take out that prop. We'll paint along the right edge, down to the bottom, and a stroke or two for a fold in the sail. Now let's mix some black and paint along the mast. And on the very bottom, and another stroke to emphasize a wrinkle in the sail. Now we'll get our yellow-orange and fill in the sides of the boat. We'll get some dark blue and paint the front and top edge of that side. A dab on the back corner, and we'll paint it right into the reflection of the boat. And we'll create a sort of zigzag reflection. I'll soften that a little. Now we'll mix some dark black and add a stroke or two right where the boat touches the water. On the front, the top edge, and we'll add a dark wave. That's good. We'll add orange to the black and paint the inside of the boat. It's really just a wedge shape. Let's add another dab in the corners. And that'll work pretty well. Now I want to soften the sun and reflections a little more. And that's all we're doing. I'll clean up, dry that a little with a heat gun, and sign it. It's a simple painting, but it's vibrant and has some nice depth to it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you had success with this lesson and join me for the next one. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and click the like button. Have a great day.